Reading multiple choice single answer guided practice. Let's begin. Here's your first question. The answer is option number 3. They have a wide variety of fronting hazards, allowing golfers to hit shots with strong backspin. How do we go about this? First, read the question. Which of the following is not a common characteristic of links golf courses? So that tells us that the passage is going to be about links golf courses, or at least that is what I'm going to focus on. And I have to find out of these options, which option is not a common characteristic. So the options, they're supposed to represent different characteristics of links golf courses, and I must pick the one which is not. Now, with that in mind, I first skim the text. The style of play on a links golf course is considerably different on other types of courses. The challenges, nature of course, which by uneven fairways, deep bunkers, secondly due to the coastal location, lack of trees. Like the style of play, as many link courses consist of an outward. All right, so this is one big paragraph, and pretty much all of it is about a links golf course and some differences, its differences from other types of golf courses, and then some characteristics of the links golf courses. So that means when I scan for specific information to validate the option, I'll pretty much have to look through the whole paragraph, as there's only one paragraph here. The first option, usually located on coastal locations and lack trees. You can try to find some words or references or words similar to coastal locations or the location of the golf courses. And you can see, and secondly, due to their coastal location and lack of trees, many links courses are frequently windy. This statement tells that these courses, they are located on coastal locations and lack trees. That means this is a common characteristic. So it's not an option for us. Second, they are often windy and favor those who can play low, accurate shots. This says they are frequently windy and favoring players who are able to play low, accurate shots. So again, it's a characteristic. They have a wide variety of fronting hazards, allowing golfers to hit shots with strong backspin. So maybe somewhere where we can find a mention of backspin. Yeah, at the end there is. And it says greens on links courses tend to be free of fronting hazards. But here they're saying they have a wide variety of fronting hazards. So that means it's opposite. And this, therefore, is not a common characteristic. Now, as we discussed earlier, even though we have found that option 3 is the option that we'll be selecting, as it's not a common characteristic, and we have validated it against the information in the text. But before we go ahead, we submit our answer, we should also spend a few seconds going through the other options. All right, so always do that. The next question now. You can pause and try to attempt this question. The answer is option number 5. Litter caused by refillable bottles can pollute the local environment. The question was, which of the following is not a danger associated with waste disposal? The question tells me that the text will be about waste disposal, and that it will have some discussion around dangers associated with it. And that is the information I need to find. And the options, each one of these options is supposed to be a danger associated with waste disposal. And I have to pick the one which is incorrect. That is, it's not a danger. Now, let's go. The first step, what I have to do, I have to skim the text. About 80 million tons of waste, household waste. Okay. Experiences show there's no completely safe method of waste disposal. Negative impacts, contaminated drink, damages the toxic components, pose serious health risks, battery. The only way to avoid environmental harm is to prevent its generation, etc., etc. So now I've understood the structure. The theme, of course, it's about the waste that's generated, its disposal, the dangerous side effects of waste disposal, and what we can do to prevent that. And the first paragraph is a general introduction about the waste. Then the next is about the different methods and how no method is safe when it comes to waste disposal. And after that, the third paragraph is also about these dangers and the serious health risks associated with waste disposal. And the final paragraph then is about how you can prevent these problems, and that is by actually preventing the generation of waste. So I've understood the structure. I'll scan in relation to the options that are given. The first option, landfills can contaminate drinking water. So now either the second paragraph or the third paragraph will have information. So find somewhere where there's a mention of drinking water or something like that. Yeah, landfills have contaminated drinking water. So it's not a danger associated with waste disposal, but the text actually validates that this is a danger. So not an option. Burning the garbage can pollute the air and soil. Again, the next sentence, garbage burned in incinerators have poisoned air, soil, and water. So that's also a valid danger. That means not an option for us. Similarly, the third one, burning toxics present in household materials are dangerous for public health. And now I remember in the third option, there was a mention of household risks, household products, and I'll go there. Let's see, such as heavy metals found when burned or buried. Toxic materials also pose a serious threat to public health and the environment. So that means this is also a danger. The next, water treatment plants change local ecology. So let's see, negative impacts, water treatment plants. Yeah, here's an option. The majority of water treatment systems change the local ecology. So that's also a danger. And the final option, litter caused by refillable bottles can pollute the local environment. So do you find any mention of refillable bottles? Landfills, garbage systems, toxic components, batteries, organic compounds, nail polish. Yeah, so there's no mention of this, and that means this is not a danger associated with waste disposal. However, if you look at the last sentence, from litter caused by disposable beverage containers. So disposable beverage containers and beverage containers or refillable disposable beverage containers means the same thing as refillable bottles. So this actually tells that it's a way of preventing waste pollution. So that means it is not a danger associated with waste disposal. So that's why it's correct. Whenever you do these kind of comprehension questions, these multiple choice questions, try to find out and don't just move on if your question is correct or if it's wrong, because this is not mathematics. You should also spend some time trying to understand the reason why that option was correct, why the other options were wrong. When you do that, that is when you will learn. Next question now, question number 3. The answer is professional speakers at times use gestures intentionally, whereas common people mostly use them unintentionally. The question was, what's the biggest difference in the use of gestures among common people and professional speakers? So in the text, it will be about the use of gestures and how common people and professional speakers talk and how they use gestures. So now let's skim the text. Gestures involve using arms and hands. Gestures provide. So the first paragraph is pretty much about gestures. Then the next paragraph for professional speakers, this is also true. You want to come across, you can easily recognize, can as professional speakers lead up to. The next two paragraphs are about how professional speakers use gestures. And the final, which comes next, involves using your arms and hands, complements. You then slowly by holding one hand at a waist level pointing upwards. So that again still tells how you can use gestures for better communication. Where do they talk about common people? In the first paragraph, they also mention most people do not. So maybe that's a reference to the common people, and we will come to that. Now, when you understand the structure, so pretty much the whole is about gestures and how professional speakers use gestures. And in the first paragraph, yes, there is some comparison with common people. So maybe this is where I will focus. The first option, professional speakers use gestures much more than common people. For example, watch people in normal everyday conversations, they frequently use their hands to express themselves. So it actually, the text says that common people also use gestures often, but does not say that they use it less or more than professional speakers. The next one, common people use gestures to release nervous energy, but professional speakers use it to show their confidence. Okay, is there any mention of confidence or nervousness there? Clearly show anticipation, serving as non-verbal, can help to make a point memorable. You come across comfortable and natural into a positive activity that benefits. So not directly, but yeah, here when they say you come across as comfortable and natural, so that is kind of showing that you are confident. Okay, but it doesn't nowhere the text says that common people use gestures to release nervous energy. So it's not an option. The third, professional speakers at times use gestures intentionally, whereas common people mostly use them unintentionally. And here, for example, when you come, for example, watch people in normal, everyday conversations. They frequently use their hands to express themselves. Do you think they think about how they use their hands? Most people do not. So what they're saying is they do not think means they do not use it intentionally. They use it unintentionally. And then they say that for professional speakers, this is also true, but deliberate movement can reinforce. So that means professional speakers sometimes they use gestures intentionally. There are several mentions of that. In third paragraph, as they lead up to a main point, they raise their hand slightly. Clearly shows the audience your anticipation, serving as a non-verbal form of foreshadowing. So that means they sometimes use gestures intentionally, whereas common people, and we can validate it in the text, most people do not. They use them unintentionally. You can also spend some time looking at why the other two options are incorrect. Now, as you see, sometimes when you are validating an option, part of that information will come from one part. For example, for common people, it is mentioned somewhere around here. For professional speakers, it's mentioned here and here. That's why don't do just dumb keyword matching. Try to understand the structure and where the information is. And then always try to understand the context, okay? If somebody just looks at one aspect, this part, then they'll not be able to find the comparison with professional speakers. But only when you read the rest, the other two paragraphs, you come across the comparison, and that's when you can judge that this option is correct. Let's go to the next question now. Here's the option. It does not provide information on the causes. So based on the passage, what is lacking in correlational research? Now, the question tells us that the passage is going to be about research or types of research, and there's going to be some information or a lot of information about correlational research. And all of these options below, they're supposed to represent something that is present in correlational research. You have to pick the option that is lacking, okay, which is not really mentioned in the text as something that happens in correlational research or is present in correlational research. All right. So you follow the usual steps. You skim, try to see how the text is structured, and then you will go and scan the information one by one. So for the first option, it does not tell the degree to which the factors are correlated. So see if there's any mention of degree or factors. Do not provide information about causation, cannot tell if they're poor common causes, challenging behavior, careful manipulation. So no, it does not. There's no mention of that. Does not provide information on how the challenging behaviors are related. Challenging behaviors. Yeah, there's a mention of challenging behavior. So it may be that poor communication causes challenging behavior. Challenging behaviors cause poor communication, or quality of early home environment causes both poor communication and challenging behaviors. Yeah. But it does not. Correlational research, this is used as an example to tell how what is lacking in correlation. It does not tell us anything specific about the challenging behaviors and their relation among themselves, how the challenging behaviors are related. So don't be confused that there's a mention of challenging behavior. And let's look at the correct option. It does not provide information on the causes. So based on the passage, what is lacking? On the causes. So correlational results do not provide information about causation or cannot tell if one variable causes another. So that is correct. The text says correlational results. This is related to correlational research. So results are the results of those correlational research. So it means correlational research does not provide information about causation or how one variable causes to another. That is same as this option. The biggest takeaway from this question is look for similar words, try to understand the meaning. And I think the biggest mistake, people who fail to answer multiple questions are the ones who want to do quick matches just by looking at the words and who do not spend time analyzing the options properly. 1 or 2 minutes is good enough once you have studied the method, understood the method, and practiced it. So a lot of practice is needed if you're not familiar with comprehension questions. If you haven't already done these types of questions in your school or college, then yeah, you do need to spend some time, need to get into the practice of skimming, scanning, validating the options.